like on August 28th yet?
No, I probably won't know until August 28th. And that's the beauty of it. We want the guys to compete all the way until the kickoff, and then we'll figure out, who gets out there and when they get out there. But right now, we're just focusing on every day being the best version of ourselves and just trying to compete.
Coach B's spoken a lot about consistency. That's something that I feel like Donnie Navarro's brought to the receiver in the last couple of years. Where have you really seen and impressed by Donnie in the last week or two?
I mean, Donnie's done a great job. I think he's Mr. Consistency in terms of his routine, and that's the one thing Coach Peterson talks about is just build a routine and live a routine. And Donnie's success comes from his routine. He's a high-effort guy. He's very knowledgeable. He works on his route technique, and I think his leadership has gotten a lot better. So I think him being that type of player has actually elevated our room because he sits at the table at the same time. He stretches at the same time. So younger guys and guys around him can kind of build off of his routine.
We had a chance to talk to Brian earlier this week, and he was talking about how this is probably the hardest he's ever been pushed, the standard being higher than it's ever been.
Right.
What's it been like to see him and the rest of the guys kind of accept that challenge of good is not good enough?
Oh, it's good. I mean, this is the hardest I've been pushed. I mean, I think that's just as a program, Coach B's coaching us all, and it comes from the top down. He holds himself to a high standard. He expects the assistants, and then we expect our players. So, we're living that standard, and I think all of us are being stretched and pushed in a different way, and all of us are trying to respond to it. And Brian's another guy that's been responding to the challenges of being consistent, no different than George McDonald's responding to the challenge of being a consistent coach for Coach B. So I think as a unit, we're all responding the right way, and we're all getting better every day.
I know Ben has the title of special teams coach, but how is all 10 assistants kind of getting their fingers in on that level, on that area of play?
I mean, Ben tells us what to do. I think he tells us what to do, and then we go attack it. So,
right.
So he gives me my assignments. I take my notes just like the players take their notes, and then, the biggest thing is we're all in charge of our part and our unit. So when we're out there, we're all coaching it to make sure we're not the weak link, and I think that goes to Coach B. No one wants to be the weak link from a coach to a player. So whatever special teams that you're given, you're trying to take it like you own it and really develop it.
George, apologies if you've already answered this, but the process of first meeting Casey and getting him back, how did that all kind of come to fruition?
I mean, when he left, I was already just coming, and then it just came up where he was back in the portal. So we just treated him like anybody else. We kind of tried to do the background information. Obviously, there was already a history here. And then when I met him, I was always stricken by his passion to be a good football player and him as a person. And that was the first thing I told coaches, I don't know where this is going, but I like the kid as a person from my conversation. And every time we meet and we talk, that relationship continues to grow. And he's done a really good job of just coming in, really coming back, and just putting his head down and trying to grow and to learn and not expecting anything, but just happy to be here and happy to be a part of what we're trying to build here.
What have you learned about him as a football player over the course of the last 2 weeks?
Football is important. I mean, he loves football. You can tell by the way he prepares, by the way he practices. He's really physical, so it's been fun to work with him and continue to help him grow in our offense.
Go ahead.
Just doing the background on somebody who is already in the building. I mean, I know obviously doesn't know you guys.
Right.
But how is that different than somebody who there are fewer common threads between guys who you have in the building and him?
Right. I think it's, Coach B, when he challenged me, he's like, don't listen to anybody else's opinion. Make your own opinion. And I think that's, once again, we always talk about Coach B, but that was his philosophy when he came in here. Everybody started with a clean slate, and then it was up to them to show us who they are or for us to develop our own opinions of them. And that's kind of how he challenged me. Don't go talk to everybody else. You call Casey, figure out how you feel about him individually, and that's what I did, and I've been happy with the decision to get him back in the fold.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Casey was on campus for most of the spring as a student. I saw him on campus to get him out, but he wasn't able to actually, step into the facility until he was fully admitted back and work out and all those different kind of things. How difficult do you think that was on him when you first got to work with him and stuff, and just being away from the team aspect of it, I guess?
Well, I think, it's just like Jafar coming in. Jafar was in Kansas City, Peyton was in Ohio. So I think those guys are handling their business. And if you're a high-level athlete, you're going to work out wherever you are and find a way to be successful. So I've been happy with the way, since we started training camp, and he's been in our fold, to really his commitment to developing his craft and learn what we're doing.
And then you mentioned Jafar a little bit before, and then you just mentioned him again. How important is his versatility? At Notre Dame, he showed him an ability to run the ball and kind of do a lot of different things. How important is that for your receiver room now?
I think it's good. The more you can do, the better you are. You know, I mean, I think that's as a football player, as a football team, the more guys we have that can play different positions or have different skill sets, they make us a better team. So, you know, Jafar has a unique skill set from his running back ability, his receiver ability. So we're really excited to figure out where he fits and try to use some of his talents.
I mean, I know you don't work with him directly, but I'm just curious, kind of your impressions of Art Sikowski since he got here, and maybe just working with him with the wide receivers.
You know, I think Art, you know, he has a great command of the huddle. When he steps in, you feel his presence. He's a hard-working guy. You know, you can tell that he's played a lot of football in the way he carries himself. But, you know, I think he's just been another added maturity to our offense. And, you know, happy that he's here.
I mean, I think maybe 10 years ago it would have been strange for one Big Ten team to have two former Big Ten quarterbacks on the roster.
Yeah, you had to sit out a year back in the day. But
just what does it made that bring? Where Brandon obviously knew the conference when he got here, and Art maybe knows what's expected at the Big Ten level because he's been in it.
I think it just gives you maturity and information. You know, I mean, I think that's no different than I'm coming from the ACC and we play Virginia. I think you know the more the transfer portal and guys moving around, you get more information. But at the end of the day, you know, he's a good person. And his character and his integrity and his energy that he brings is probably more than him being at another Big Ten school, just the type of person that he is.
I guess, you know, for maybe him, but also for Jafar, you know, just some of the guys that got here when camp started, essentially. What's the most important thing for them, you know, in these first few weeks before the season starts?
I think just learning how to compete the way we want to compete, and then just learning our language. I think when you come from a different school, you've been ingrained and indoctrinated in a different philosophy. So just being open to change and open to different coaching philosophies, and all of them have done that. So, you know, those guys have been a pleasure to have in our room and a pleasure to work with on the field. So it's been really fun the last couple of weeks.
If I could, just a name that Brett's mentioned a few times is Dale Von Campbell. I guess, what have you seen out of him? It's just a guy who hasn't had a lot of on-the-field production so far. What stood out about him?
I mean, he has great length and great size. You know, he's another guy that works really hard, that's trying to develop his skill sets. But he's another big body. We don't have a lot of those. And, you know, he's made some nice plays in the red zone. So he's done a good job trying to continue to develop and learn what we're trying to get done.